think we're live.
It said one.
One? So it didn't have
one and done. That's what I felt like last week. One and done.
Hey, I think a lot of people are in your corner rooting for you right now because you are up to 2 rides this week.
I still don't know what it's like to kill it.
You'll never know what it's like to kill it. Hey, we rode tonight, and in all seriousness, normally
are we doing the whole show in this
2 months,
calm, cool, collected demeanor? Or
2 months ago,
amp it up.
We would have been like, it's raining, or might rain, or saw lightning an hour ago. Let's not ride.
True.
Well, road.
Hey,
baby steps.
It's the new you, us,
new us. Welcome back to Legacy Live. Those of you crazy enough to join us again, we are doing our second show.
It's going to be like Lost Bucket Invitational. It's our second, first episode.
And I bet you exactly 3 people out there know what Lost Bucket is.
True.
So good analogy there. Way to keep it relevant.
I want everybody to understand where we're coming from.
Hey, so what Dan's talking about is last week we did a show. It was like 40 minutes long. We talked about all the different ride scene here in Highlands County, Sebring, Avon Park, and what the rides we can do. And we saved it, went up as a post, and then within the hour, if not less, it was gone. We even looked at it, reviewed it, and it was gone. So we think we may have had some kind of copyright violations due to the music that we were trying to play at the beginning of the show to sound like a professional radio show.
We need to get a good attorney.
Yeah, well, if you knew one, if you know a good attorney, have him or her call us. We need a.
It's a cold drink, but
what do you
I
call
wouldn't
that?
Call it beer. Are you going to respond to any of the questions
Are there
that people are
talking
sending
to
us,
us
or
already?
what? Anyhow, yes, Terry.
Terry has a bike?
Yeah.
Which Hancock is that?
He has a wheelless bike.
Oh.
Yes, Terry, your rear wheel is here. You promised me you'd be here today to get it. So it's sitting here collecting dust as your bike does in the garage.
So anyways, hopefully after tonight we'll have our
technical
show saved so that you can tell all your friends to watch it and learn stuff.
Hey, you going to hit some of the local ride scene before we get into stuff today or what?
Coming up this weekend, and that's one thing we're going to do is at the beginning of the show just talk about what group rides we know about, and we're not going to go over all the rides, but we want to let people know if the peddlers announced they're doing Cruiseville or a Babson ride, just we'll announce it here in case you missed it on Facebook. What we do know about, haven't seen peddlers post anything yet, but we know for sure Relentless is doing a 7 a.m. Sunday up in Frostproof at the SunTrust Bank, and they're riding from there, and there'll be A and B groups up there, possibly a C group if I make it.
40 miles?
40 miles for most of the people, maybe a little bit less for people that ride with me. I'll be doing hill repeats. They'll be doing some kind of a route, maybe repeats. They also got a group staying here in Sebring from Library at 7 a.m., kind of a B or C group ride, I think, led by Amy, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Out of the Civic Center. 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Sunday. Peddlers rides, of course, are going to be Friday morning, Friendly Friday, 7:30 from Five Guys. Saturday and Sunday, 7:30 from Five Guys. Don't know what their plans are. And Legacy, tomorrow night, leaving here about 6:15, 6:30. Family friend First Friday dinner ride.
So every Friday
weather
night,
permitting.
Every first Friday of the month, we have a family ride that we leave out here from the shop. Just a short ride. We hit 5 or 6 miles and we go eat somewhere and then head on back. So a lot of compliments about the hat today.
Yeah.
Good choice.
People like the hat.
Yeah. I can't even take you serious with it on. Flip the bill up.
Remember we did a picture and they said I can't flip it up because I look even worse.
Well,
there's really no fixing.
Hey, beats the heck out of a bald head from what our Facebook audience is saying.
Kevin pulling A group. Yes, A group. We just don't know which one yet. It'll be one of them. Probably the slow one.
That's right.
If I can keep up.
All right. So where are we at?
Well, we're going to talk about maintenance tonight. And I guess, there's different types of maintenance, different levels of maintenance. I think it's important to know. Like tonight's a prime example. We rode tonight, and we got hit a little bit of rain, a little bit of wet roads, even when it was raining.
That's right.
And that's a maintenance issue. So I wanted to ask you about, first of all, are you reading that or am I doing that poorly?
I'm just into that Caden shirt.
Hey, I ate nothing but vegetables for dinner last night. I'm working on it. told you I make double XL, right?
Yeah.
Or triple.
Triple. Yeah.
All right. Jeez.
Sorry. Maintenance.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think a lot of people might want to know. I'll kind of throw two questions together. What is your experience as a mechanic?
Oh boy.
And
mine?
Yeah.
Or yours?
Yours. Yeah. If you see me work on a bike, pray it's not yours. What's your experience as a mechanic and training, I guess, and then what kind of bikes do you work on or have you worked on?
Sure. So, I guess I've got 20-some years experience working in the bike industry. Started at USF. I worked. We had a really cool co-op bike shop on the campus at USF, and if you went in and worked, you got everything comped at. Obviously your labor was free, and then you got used to the tools and facilities, and then you got to buy things that cost. So I'd work on kids or students' bikes and things like that, and then I'd be able to work on my own bike. So that's kind of how I got the fever. And started doing some mountain bike racing with a series that we did at college there when I wasn't swimming. So that's how I got into it. A buddy of mine and we opened DNS Cycling Center in 1995. We went out.
Who was that buddy?
Sean Linehan and we went out to Colorado Springs and spent a month out there doing kind of extensive training and learning all the ins and outs from building a wheel to overhauling the open bearing hub, which hardly even exists anymore, to building front shocks and things like that. So that's kind of how I was taught. And then, the first couple years in business was really, on the job training. You can go out and you can read all the books, you can watch all the videos, you can YouTube things, but there's really no substitute for actually touching and feeling and working on the bike itself. Right. Things, it's a mechanical machine, so things happen for a reason, right. And those reasons can change depending on different scenarios. So, it really takes years and years and years of experience to see all those various scenarios and how to apply what to solving those problems. So, right. So that's kind of my background and experience, and I'll tell you what, we've worked on everything from 1932 Schwinn three-wheelers, where they actually took a road bike and attached a double-wheeled rear end to it to make it into a three-wheeler, to super high-end custom bikes, to the latest and greatest from Shimano Di2 stuff and SRAM ETAP, to some of our fully integrated bikes where you don't even see a cable or any wind deterrent. So we've kind of worked on everything.
And everything is the same, even if it's different as far as the basic theory that goes chasing down troubleshooting and stuff like that.
Theory in the bike world is basic and it's universal pretty much, from mountain bike to road bike to time trial bike to recreational bike. Where you run into some of the differences are application of technologies. So, the industry's evolved just like the computer industry. Every year we have changes, and who would have thought 10 years ago that you would have wireless shifters powered by batteries on each derailleurs and really being able to plug your bike into the computer to tune it up. And I mean, we do that all the time now.
When I was Caden's age, I used to dream about wireless bikes. I would you didn't have to pedal. I'm kidding. I dreamt about McDonald's when I was his age.
So then we spent a lot of time working on mountain bikes, and that was my original passion, was mountain biking. And then as we got into the business, started road cycling a lot to cross train for mountain biking, and then that evolved into triathlons and tri-training. So mountain bikes is really a passion of mine. I enjoy working on them. We don't in Florida get to play with a lot of the suspension technology that you get to play with out west. Out west, and you can go out and get trained in these specific applications, but there's a lot of tweaking to suspension and suspension forks and rear shocks that we just don't experience a lot here in Florida, because you don't need a bike that's got 5 inches of rear travel,
right.
and you're perfectly fine with 100 millimeters of front fork travel and a hardtail in a lot of scenarios. So regionally, and you'll see this at your local bike shops, regionally they have a specialty. It always happens. In Sebring we do a lot of road and tri bikes, and then we also do a smattering of high-end mountain bikes, but hardtail style mountain bikes, some limited rear travel. If you go to other markets, if you go to South Florida, down in Miami, they have a big infiltration of South American crowd, and so those guys are actually coming to Miami to get full suspension downhill bikes. So you wouldn't believe the number of enduro mountain bikes that go through South Florida bike shops. So very regional.
Yeah.
Each bike shop kind of hones in and has their forte and expertise. For some of them, it's cruisers and recreational bikes, because that's what they're turning and working on dailies. For some, it's high-end bikes and road bikes and stuff like that. So
when people come in and they have maintenance issues or tune-ups or whatever pertaining to maintenance, what are the kind of questions you get asked frequently, and you can go from the really weird question or just frequently asked questions that people want to know that maybe they could have done something at home and been fine or whatever, save themselves a trip.
The number one thing that we hear probably the most is, I came in, I bought a tube, I installed it, and it exploded. And, that's a great opportunity.
You installed it or they did?
They installed it. They came in, they bought a tube, took it home, they wanted to install it themselves. And it comes back, they come back, and of course the initial thought is, I got a faulty tube. So it's a great opportunity for us to stop and explain to them how to properly install a tube. We try to do it in a manner to where they understand maybe where the error happened. You can't always catch everything, but that's the most common question we probably see. We have a lot of people that will come in and their wheel is out of true, and they try to fix it themselves. And more oftentimes than not, they will have created a little bit more of a problem than they actually fix. So, and then of course, the big question is, what do I do when I'm out on the road and I have issues? And so we get those questions all the time. How do I fix a flat tire when I'm out on the road? How do I fix a broken spoke? There's all kinds of different things. I'm sure there's some things that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but those are the kind of core common questions that we get asked all the time.
What about weird things? Oh, go ahead.
Well, and oftentimes people don't understand how a bike shifts or how it works. And there are screws on the derailleur, and those are called limit screws. And what those do, especially on the rear derailleur, is they keep the shifter from going too far into the spokes or too far out to the frame. And those are set and established by the mechanic when they build it and should never be touched.
The ones you're talking about, the ones I use to adjust
all
my
the
chain.
Time. Right.
Why didn't you tell me that?
So we get people all the time. Hi, Hannah. We get people all the time that come in.
Why is Laura calling you daddy?
Well, we get people all the time that come in and say, I tried to adjust my rear derailleur because it wasn't shifting properly. Why did these screws not fix it? And so, simple thing, just as simple. We're not here to tell everybody or today to focus on how to do something.
Right.
But shifting is all done by cable tension. Okay. Once your limits are set, everything else is done by cable tension. So
if you're on ETAP? That's wireless.
I'm talking the average Joe who doesn't have ETAP or electronic shifting. If you don't have electronic shifting, which 99% of the people that we deal with don't, it's all done with cable tension. And so if it's not shifting properly, or if it's ticking or making a noise, that's a cable adjustment. And the other thing to learn is cable stretch. So you may have a brand new cable on your bike. You may go out and ride it, and it's perfect for the first 5 miles. But then you get about 10 miles into the ride, and you might hear a little ticking. It may not be shifting as precisely. Well, that's that initial cable stretch. We try to pre-stretch everything the best that we can, setting the ferrules into the housing and things of that nature, but you can't always account for all of it. So cable stretch, it's a mechanical device, and things happen and change, but cable tension is the way to adjust a derailleur, not limit screws.
Now,
I just get frustrated with that.
I've probably been riding about 7 or 8 years before I moved here. And I think you're the first person to really tell me that you're not supposed to ride in your biggest gear up front and
right.
your physically biggest gear, right? Because they're the easiest gear in the back.
Sure.
The crossover.
Yeah. So
and I just want to tell you something, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong in my mentality. When I used to ride motorcycles, I used to think, the bike can do 160, 180. Why should I not do it? Or, you drive a car, it goes over 100. Why shouldn't I? If it can shift to it, why can't I ride those gears? And why don't they make it so you can't shift to that crossed over position?
Right.
And why shouldn't I do it?
Well, the first thing is crossing over for layman's terms is when you're in the extremist angle that the chain will allow you to be in. So if you're in the large chain ring in the largest cog in the back, that's crossover. But also if you're in the small chain ring in the front and the smallest in the back, that's crossover. Now, it's not that you can't use that gear. It's just that's not a gear that you want to consistently be in. Okay, so the derailleur should always work. It should always go into those gears. You should be able to use that gear. That way when you're climbing a hill, you don't want to shift from out of your big ring. You can go up to that gear and you can spin up that hill and then work your way back down the cassette. But if you find yourself riding in a crossover angle on a regular basis, you're putting a lot of wear and strain on your equipment. It's super easy to derail the chain. A perfectly adjusted bike crossed over under an extreme load will throw a chain. There's just no way to do it. You're in the wrong gear for that situation. You're flexing the frame, and it's going to throw the chain. If you're in big, and you're stomping, the odds are you're going to torque the frame enough that it's going to throw the chain.
To the outside?
To the outside, and to the inverse on the other angle. So it's not that you can't be in those gears. Those gears are there. They should be adjusted properly so that you can get into them. But you shouldn't be consistently in that gear. And if you find yourself consistently in that gear, we need to talk about maybe looking at different gear ratios.
Right.
And we can change those gear ratios. So if you find that you're riding in your 52-28 all the time, we need to talk about putting a compact gear on and moving to a 52
and
up
52,
front.
52 or 50 being usually your bigger chain ring.
The large chain ring up front, the
yeah.
number of teeth.
Yeah.
We may want to consider moving to a 50 tooth. That way you can move down on the cassette maybe to your 23 instead of your 28. So it's not that you can't be in them. It's just that you shouldn't be in them for prolonged periods of time.
I want to talk a little bit about flat tires on the road. We talked about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
A minute ago, but we got a comment on Facebook from John. I don't know if he was joking or not, but something about his cartridge blowing up.
Right.
So, I mean, are you familiar with his situation or what he's talking about?
I think slightly. One of the things, so there are different devices for inflation. You've got a CO2 device that has a trigger on it. So when you take and attach the CO2 cartridge, you use the trigger to regulate the amount of air that it releases. The other style, you thread the body down onto the cartridge and you take it all the way down and tighten it, and that seals it. But if you don't go all the way tight, it's going to leak out.
Do you want to do it quickly? You want to kind of get it in there?
You want to screw it down all the way tight because it's actually puncturing the top of that CO2 cartridge, and then it's got a rubber O-ring that seals it. Okay. But if you don't screw it down all the way tight, it's going to blow all the air out right away. And that might not be John's situation.
Let us know, John.
But
he says nope, blew out.
Right.
Had the trigger locked.
So that's a situation, John, that we probably need to bring it in. We'll take a look at it, and I can go through and and show you, and maybe you have a faulty device. That's possible too, but we'll figure that out.
And when you were talking about flats earlier, I went ahead and posted our first roadside repair video.
Sure. Yep.
That we did about a week or so ago and got it a few days ago.
You might want to talk about that clinic because I'm really excited about that.
So yeah. But anyways, if you look in the comments right now on this video, there's a post from us about the video, and we're going to add more of those here soon, and just have stuff that, if you're on the side of the road, you can bring up your phone and watch it, or hopefully watch it before you get out on a ride and know how to prepare for it. Roadside repair clinic coming up for Team Relentless, the tri-team we keep raving about with Tim and Tony and John Snyder and whatnot. So first event is coming up. Is it
Friday, August 12th?
Friday,
August 18th. Sorry,
August 18th.
Friday, August 18th, here at the shop.
Cool.
We're going to do that from 5:30 to 7. It's going to be a roadside repair clinic, so it's not just going to be flat tire specific, although we'll spend a lot of time talking about that because that's the most common issue. But we're also going to talk a lot about what do we do if the chain derails. We talked earlier about putting extreme torques and you could derail the chain. What do we do to handle that situation? What do we do if we break a spoke out on the open road? What do we do in all these different scenarios? What happens if we cut the tires so bad that we can't just put a tube in? How do we fix that? So we'll talk about boots and things like that. So basically, we're going to try to tackle, it's only an hour and a half window, but we're going to try to tackle most every scenario that could happen when you're out on a group ride, out by yourself, or in the middle of a race.
And we'll probably live stream that, won't we?
Yeah, I think so. We'll live stream that. And the other thing about that clinic is I know Kevin will be here because I think we're going to do food afterwards. We'll probably all get together and go get something to eat.
Yeah, so. I'll be here.
So anyways, 5:30 to 7, Friday, August 18th here at the shop.
Cool. We're
going to clear out the showroom so that everybody – and one thing we need to mention is I want everybody to bring their bike. Because this isn't just going to be me doing a demonstration.
Hands-on.
This is going to be hands-on, trial and error, learning how to do it yourself, and working on it that way. So
cool. And if Eric can't make it, he can drop his bike off here, and I'll take care of it for him.
Pretty much.
That was Mrs. Goolsby.
Yeah, well, she's live. Anyways. There's a reason I don't give out my cell phone number.
All right, so we got a couple more things we wanted to kind of talk about. Derailleurs, bent derailleurs, tackled wheels, and broken spokes. Did we address any of those yet?
No.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, if I have a problem, and I see this as being a mountain bike issue, but it might be a road bike issue too. Maybe if your bike falls over at the gas station while you're getting a slushy. But bent derailleurs, I mean, what problems does that cause? Why is that a problem? I mean,
right.
And then what can we do about it?
So one of the biggest problems is, if your derailleur is supposed to be horizontal or parallel to the wheel, okay? And if that rear derailleur, if the bike falls over, gets bumped, kicked, and the rear derailleur now is at an angle, what will happen is as you're shifting that towards the wheel, it'll shift into the wheel, into the spokes, and it'll lock up and rip the spokes out of your wheel, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things to always be cognizant of, especially if your bike falls over, or let's say, here's a pet peeve of mine. Anytime you have an issue out on the open road, that was not me, that was my husband. Thank goodness.
I looked pretty from here, whoever it
was. One of the things that the pet peeve of mine is whenever you lay your bike down at any time, I don't know a scenario where you should lay your bike down, but let's say you lay your bike down, side of the road, whatever.
You're at a rest stop and there's no more trees to prop them up against, or even when you prop it up against a tree, it could be an issue. Right?
You should get your buddy and you should lean your bikes together and non-drive side in. But if you lay your bike down, back of your vehicle, side of the road, at a rest stop, drivetrain always up. There's no excuse. But 9 times out of 10, when I see bent derailleurs, it's because somebody laid their bike over on the drive side. And what drive side is your gears, your derailleurs, your gear set, your crank set gears. Those should always be up. So
you could say right side up.
Right side up. I just said it.
You did. So did I.
So that's a scenario where that derailleur can go from being parallel to being bent in. And if you shift it all the way up, it'll shift into the spokes, rip the spokes, can cause a wreck,
right.
Will cause you to lock up.
Increase.
So if your bike falls, if your bike's laid derailleur side down, you need to have somebody hold it and stand behind it and make sure that that derailleur is parallel to the wheel.
Cool.
And so if it's not, you need to grab the body of the derailleur and gently bend it out until you get it parallel, or be very, very cognizant of not shifting into your innermost gears.
Right.
So in that
which
scenario,
would be your easiest gear for
right.
anyone that's kind of new.
Right.
So you want to.
And I really would hesitate to tell somebody to bend their derailleur hanger unless they're experienced in it.
No,
and so the best scenario, if you notice a bent derailleur, is to either find a sag support, a mechanic, or somebody who knows what they're
Call
doing,
me.
and ask them
I'll do it.
to do it. So there you go. What else?
Tackled wheel. Again, that to me.
Taco wheel's a mountain bike thing, yeah. and we can talk about that maybe some other point. But
I think it was lunchtime when I typed up my question. I actually meant
tacos
for
salad
dinner.
wheel.
Yeah.
So people have seen it all the time. A taco wheel, it gets bent so bad that it won't spin through the dropouts or through the stays, the chain stays or seat stays. So there have been many times where that's happened on a mountain bike trail. I think it happened to you once, and Kevin usually breaks spokes, but
usually because of tacos.
but there are ways to address that on the trail. It requires that the owner of the bike maybe look the other direction and cover their ears, because you generally are banging it on the ground to solve that problem. But more times than not, we can at least bang it back into shape to so it's rideable back. The other thing is broken spoke.
Right.
And that's another situation where the wheel starts wobbling back and forth and maybe isn't clearing the brake if you have rim brakes, or the stays. Two solutions to that. One, the easiest is to wrap that spoke to the adjacent spoke next to it, and then you can loosen the opposing spoke.
Right.
So if you break a right side spoke, the wheel is going to want to move to the left because you're losing that tension. So you can loosen the tension on that left spoke to bring it back so that you can actually ride it back. And sometimes you can loosen both of the opposite side spokes. But that's one way to handle a broken spoke. You want to make sure you get that spoke out of the way so that it doesn't wrap around and cause more damage. It's easy to thread out the nipple and just remove the spoke altogether and put it in your jersey pocket and take it with you, or you can wrap it around the spoke adjacent to it and get yourself home. So,
all right. I'm sorry, I was stuck on tacos. So I hope you guys are listening and got all that. So I think just reiterate the clinic you're doing on the 18th. I think that's the big thing, and I think we're at a good stopping point.
Sure. Yeah. So Roadside Repair Clinic. August 18th here at the shop, 5:30 to 7. We're putting it on for Team Relentless, but it's a great opportunity to come and hear what the team's all about. And for road cyclists, everybody's invited. We're going to talk about everything from flat tire repairs to emergency fixes on the side of the road. What happens if you derail your chain and all those different scenarios so that you can feel comfortable going out and doing a ride solo or with a smaller group and know that you'll be able to get yourself back. And that's the goal with a roadside repair clinic. It's not out there you're not going to be out there on the road stopping and fine tuning your bike to make it perfect. You're trying to solve a problem that was created in a manner to which you can get home. Right. Safely and back.
One thing we didn't talk about maintenance, and you talk about things people can do themselves at home or things to think about. and it's just, riding in the rain. You want to wipe your bike down.
We just did it today.
Yeah, wipe your bike down, wipe your chain down to dry it off, get the grit off, and re-lube it. You want to typically use the same lube you've been using.
Yep.
If you swap lubes, you want to fully clean that off the chain.
Yeah.
So they interact differently. But
yeah, absolutely. But the number one thing is if you ride in the rain, your bike gets wet, or if you have it on your vehicle and you drive through rain, you need to immediately lubricate the chain. The rain is going to wash all the lube off, and a dry chain, you can do one ride and ruin a chain if you ride it completely dry. So lubricating the chain is important. And the other number one thing, because I have multiple number one things,
sweat,
is a clean bike is a good running bike. And
it's lighter. If you keep it clean, it's going to be lighter than all that dirt.
Absolutely. And I stress this to Terry all the time. I've never seen his bike clean. Well, I've cleaned it.
Right.
But then it comes back a mess. But
clean your bike.
Clean bike is a good working bike.
Tires.
Couple simple things like dish soap and water and a sponge. Wash your bike down. This time of year with the heat and humidity, you're sweating profusely. So I recommend when you get back, use fresh water to rinse off your handlebar tape.
Right.
Simply just rinse it off, because what that does is get rid of all those salts that collect under the tape. One, they stink.
The smell.
Two, they accelerate corrosion and wear. So a clean bike is a good running bike. Rinse off salts and sweats. And if you get stuck in the rain, your bike's in the back traveling and it gets rained on, you need to immediately re-lubricate the chain before you ride it so that you don't ruin it.
Right. And for people who air their tires up every 2 weeks, whether it needs it or not, you say?
Well, tires can leak down and will leak down. Every ride on a high-pressure tire, every ride you should
check it and
top it off. There's absolutely no reason to ever let the air out of your tire unless you're storing it in a very hot environment. But there's really
storing it, not day-to-day use.
Right. Well, even day-to-day use. I mean, if you're going to leave it in an environment where it's 150 degrees, you don't want to leave a 120 psi tire in a 150 degree trunk of a car, because that's a good way to blow out a tire. But outside of that scenario, in your home garage, in your house, absolutely no reason whatsoever to let the air out of your tires. It's a good way to cause a pinch flat, because
you might
airing up and letting out, the tube moves, manipulates underneath
the valve stem. You're screwing that open, and it's just a small piece of metal, and they break over time. You're constantly putting a thing on it. So
now, if you're going to store a bike for an extended period of time, yes, you want to let the air out, because then the tire's not expanded and doesn't dry out as quick.
And put stable in the gas tank.
And the old school way, when people ran tubular tires, they often let the air out. But there's absolutely no reason to let the air out of a standard clincher tire on a regular basis.
And one more thing, if you do put CO2 on a roadside repair on your tire to get air in it, it is going to go low the next day. It doesn't mean that you have a problem still.
That's right.
It's naturally going to go low. So top it off with air again when you get home, or let it out.
Now, if the next day, if it's completely empty, you didn't get the foreign debris out of the tire.
But you're going to lose about 40% or so, right?
Yep, the molecules are smaller, and they leak through butyl rubber tires. So you'll go from 100 PSI to 75 PSI overnight because of that scenario.
So don't be surprised.
So, you definitely need to top it off. So
cool.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, especially for the clinic coming up, or any, we're compiling some ideas, writing a timeline. We're going to try to hit different ideas through time. Kevin at legacybicycle.com.
Yeah, and don't forget, Tuesday and Thursdays, tour day after work.
Still going on.
We're having a lot of fun, and that'll be going on for the next 2 months until time changes. So come out and kill it with us, or with some.
Train dirty, Bert. Train dirty.
All right. Peace out.
Discount on the hat if you buy it tomorrow. Just this one.